Hello, and thank you for choosing our Sleep Aid ASMR video to help you to get to sleep and stay asleep tonight. The voice you're hearing is single sourced from the channel creator and the sound of their real voice. So relax, get comfortable, and get ready to be lulled to sleep by a soothing, calm voice reading boring articles about boring topics. Very shortly, at the end of this opening, there will be a brief 5-second pause followed by a minute of soothing music to indicate the transition to the narrations. This is also to provide you with more time to get ready and settled. We at the channel hope this works for you as it has for friends, and if it does, please like and subscribe. Good night, sleep well, and pleasant dreams, fellow YouTuber. How cybersecurity vendors build credibility with CISO buyers through content marketing. Introduction. Only 5% of organizations fully trust their cybersecurity vendors. The other 95% operate with a constant, low-level anxiety that their security stack might fail them. For a startup trying to sell into the enterprise market, this statistic isn't a hurdle, it's a wall. Traditional marketing tactics, generic blogs, broad LinkedIn ads, and consumer-facing influencers don't break through this wall. They simply bounce off. CISOs at mid-market and large enterprises don't buy based on hype. They buy based on peer validation and verifiable proof. They trust industry peers, 64%, far more than vendor claims or analyst reports. When a breach occurs, the board asks about the vendor. If that vendor cannot prove they are trustworthy before a sale or renewal, the deal dies. This is why startups often stall despite having superior technology. They lack the social proof required to get invited to a meeting. Paid thought leadership offers a path through this deadlock. It's not about buying a celebrity endorsement, it's about aligning with niche practitioners who already speak the language of the CISO. Experts like Christophe Foulon, Jean-Christophe Gaillard, Kane McGladrey, and Alex Sharp have earned trust through years of their operational work. Their audiences aren't consumers. They are the exact decision makers startups need to reach. The strategy requires a shift from broadcasting to borrowing. A startup can't build a reputation from scratch in 6 months, but it can inherit a portion of an expert's credibility by partnering with these voices. A vendor gains access to private CISO communities, roundtables, and Signal group chats where real buying decisions are discussed. The cost is manageable. A podcast appearance can start at $500, while an in-person keynote might run up to $2,500. The return is access to the 95% of skeptical buyers who live in these private spaces. Who are enterprise CISO buyers and what do they need? The modern CISO works under a unique pressure, securing the organization while enabling business velocity, all while facing substantial personal liability for failures. This role has changed over time into a Gen 4 mandate where leaders now govern AI-driven decisions, not just infrastructure, and validate that automated systems do not introduce unmanaged risk. This means that they evaluate vendors not just on feature lists, but on the ability to handle complex, non-deterministic environments. A startup promising a simple fix for a specific vulnerability often misses the mark because it ignores this broader governance reality. Trust for this buyer is built on verifiable artifacts, not catchy marketing. Independent assessments, certifications like SOC 2 Type 2, and documented operational maturity are the strongest drivers of confidence. CISOs prioritize transparency during incidents and consistent technical performance every day. Boards lean on third-party validations. The common thread is evidence-backed transparency. When a vendor cannot independently verify their security maturity, that uncertainty flows directly into the boardroom, stalling deals, and the modern buying committee is rarely small. It averages 6.8 decision makers, each consuming different content. The CISO reads executive insights. The security engineer needs technical deep dives. Procurement requires compliance docs. The CFO wants financial framing, and ROI startup producing content only for the CISO leaves the rest of the committee unaddressed. Peer validation remains the primary information source, with 64% of CISOs relying on conversations with industry peers. Analyst reports have lost weight, relied on by only 9% of CISOs. The shift is clear. CISOs trust each other far more than vendors. This dynamic creates a specific challenge for startups that don't have a long track record. They can't point to a decade of incident-free operation. The invisible until it fails nature of security makes new entrants risky. If a startup cannot prove their competence before a sale, the buyer cannot accept the risk. The vendor must provide the proof the buyer doesn't have time to find on their own. Diagram showing the 6.8 stakeholder buying committee and their distinct content needs, why consumer-facing influencer marketing fails in B2B security, consumer influencer marketing fails in cybersecurity, because the audiences aren't even vaguely similar. A creator with 100,000 followers on Instagram or TikTok reaches consumers, not CISOs. 60% of CISOs do not follow influencers at all. When a startup hires a macro creator for a sponsored post, they're paying for reach that doesn't convert into pipeline. The failure mode works like this. Brands push their corporate marketing through an influencer's network instead of letting the influencer lead the motion, but people follow the influencer for their voice, not the brand's pitch. The moment a post reads like an advertisement, the audience disengages. In B2B security, where trust is already fragile, this damage is permanent for both the brand and the influencer. B2B influencer marketing operates on different economics. Expertise and buyer trust matter more than raw reach. A creator with 500 followers who are all cybersecurity practitioners is more valuable than one with 50,000 general tech enthusiasts. The buying cycle is longer, often 12 to 18 months for enterprise deals. A 30-day campaign burst doesn't move the needle. The sweet spot for B2B creator programs is 3 to 6 months. Technical buyers also demand depth. A 60-second video may work for consumer products, but CISOs need 30-minute webinars or detailed written analyses they can reference during evaluation. Marketing language registers as noise for practitioners in 10 seconds. 81% of engagement on cybersecurity topics happens on editorial and non-sponsored content, not vendor sites. How to identify and vet niche security thought leaders. Finding the right partner requires ignoring follower counts and focusing on relevance. In B2B security, credibility is defined by technical expertise and industry recognition, not viral reach. The vetting process must assess whether a creator can explain complex concepts accurately and demonstrate hands-on experience. Tools like LinkedIn Analytics can help determine if a thought leader's audience matches buyer personas in job title and seniority. 4 distinct types of influencers serve different purposes: practitioners, engineers, and security leads offering peer-to-peer credibility, consultants and advisors, experts providing patterns across multiple companies, niche creators, newsletter writers, or podcasters explaining tools to targeted audiences, founders and operators, individuals sharing real-world struggles, carrying immense weight in technical markets. The goal is to find voices who would share their insights regardless of their employer, proving their independence. Startups should look for creators who actively engage in private communities like the CISO Society, private CISO roundtables, or signal groups. These are the spaces where real buying decisions are discussed, along with the marketing failures and unwanted interrupt-driven sales outreach. A creator with a small but highly engaged audience of CISOs is far more valuable than one with a massive passive following of general tech enthusiasts. The vetting criteria should prioritize the types of connections and prior examples of in-depth technical discussion over vanity metrics like likes or shares. How to structure paid partnerships for maximum credibility. Compensation models must align with a long B2B sales cycle. Flat fees are standard for large assets like keynote speeches or white papers, while performance commissions can work for targeted audiences with high conversion potential. Hybrid structures often balance production costs with incentives. A 3 to 6 month partnership allows the influencer to develop genuine expertise, with the product moving beyond scripted talking points to authentic insights. Co-creation is the engine of credibility. 96% of creators want deeper relationships than one-off social posts. They want opportunities to produce content for multiple channels, become long-term ambassadors, and to co-host events. The brand needs to provide product access and education, not just marketing briefs. When an influencer truly understands the technology, they can explain it accurately in their own voice. This authenticity is what buyers trust. Governance is critical for technical accuracy. Agreements should include provisions for reviewing content to catch factual errors without micromanaging the creative voice. The goal is to maintain technical precision while preserving the influencer's unique perspective. Exclusivity clauses prevent confusion that arises when the same voice promotes competing products. Long-term alignment ensures the brand is associated with the expert's reputation over time, building sustained authority rather than fleeting awareness. What content formats resonate with enterprise buyers? CISOs and their committees consume content differently based on their role. This means that the brand must plan to address their concerns with original research, executive insights, and documentary-style video. These assets help the CISO and CFO justify the purchase internally. The technical track serves practitioners with threat write-ups, detection guides, and post-incident analyses. Accuracy and timeliness matter more than polish here, and marketing language fails instantly if it lacks technical depth. Specific formats drive the highest engagement. Technical webinars with Q&A segments allow buyers to ask specific questions. Comparative analyses that honestly acknowledge trade-offs build more trust than claims of universal superiority. Implementation case studies co-created with customers provide real-world proof of value. Podcast series offer a conversational space to explore complex topics without the pressure of a sales pitch. One well-designed annual research report can carry 6 to 12 months of pipeline, driving press and analysts' attention. Distribution channels must match the audience. LinkedIn remains the most effective platform for thought leadership, with 76% of marketers citing it as their top channel. Email newsletters and speaking events follow closely. However, the most important conversations happen in private spaces. CISOs turn to industry peers and roundtables and private signal groups for vendor recommendations. Content that is optimized for these closed loops through direct sharing and peer endorsement outperforms broad public campaigns. Audience role, primary motivation, effective content formats, content characteristics, CISO risk posture, incident reduction, and internal credibility. Needs to justify spend to the board and ensure vendor stability during a breach. Original research reports, executive thought leadership, documentary style video, interactive explainers, case studies on incident reduction, strategic and high level, focuses on track record and perceived competence, helps the CISO make an internal case without staking credibility on marketing claims. Must hold up in worst case scenarios, boardroom ready, security engineer, SecOps lead, technical validation, configuration, and detection capabilities. Needs to verify the tool works in their specific environment. Threat write-ups and emerging threats analysis. Configuration guides and detection labs. Postmortems and technical documentation. Product walkthroughs and teardowns. Implementation case studies, high technical depth and accuracy, minimal marketing language regarded as noise. Timeliness is critical. Must demonstrate hands-on expertise and real-world application, often consumed by a third-party editorial or non-sponsored content. CFO budget owner financial framing, expected loss avoidance, and audit-ready evidence. Needs to translate cyber risk into financial terms. Financial impact analyses, loss avoidance, insurance premium impact studies, audit-ready compliance documentation, ROI and pipeline influence reports, reference customer data. Clean answers over editorial voice focuses on financial outcomes and risk mitigation, requires evidence of improved cyber risk posture, translates technical capabilities into business value, how standards and frameworks support thought leadership, mapping capabilities to recognize frameworks like NIST, ISO, and CIS isn't optional. It's a prerequisite for procurement. CISOs use these standards to speed up security reviews and justify spending to the board. Content that explicitly ties a vendor solution to specific control requirements reduces friction in the buying process by making a sales pitch into a compliance artifact that buyers can file away. Verifiable security artifacts remain the single greatest driver of trust. Independent assessments, certifications, and documented operational maturity signal that a vendor takes risk seriously, while analyst reports have lost weight. With only 9% of CISOs relying on them, Third-party validation from auditors and peers still carries significant weight. Startups must package these artifacts, SOC 2 reports, data flow diagrams, and shared responsibility models alongside their thought leadership. This combination proves that the vendor isn't just talking about security, but living it. The goal is to align the vendor's story with the buyer's risk language. When a thought leader discusses AI governance or cyber resilience, they should reference the specific frameworks their audience uses to measure success. This alignment signals that the vendor understands the buyer's world. It moves the conversation from what your product does to how you help me meet my business obligations. How to measure ROI of thought leadership campaigns. Measuring thought leadership requires looking beyond vanity metrics like likes and impressions. The true value lies in pipeline influence and lead quality. 73% of decision makers prefer thought leadership over marketing collateral when assessing a company's capabilities. But only 26% of marketers can directly link this content to business outcomes. The gap exists because attribution models often fail to capture the long, nonlinear B2B buying journey. Effective measurement tracks account-level engagement rather than individual conversions, with an average of 6.8 decision makers per deal. Success means seeing multiple stakeholders within a target account engage with the content. Cohort analysis comparing influenced accounts against non-influenced ones reveals the true impact on win rates and sales cycle length. Deals that include influencer touchpoints often close faster and at higher values. Key metrics include content consumption depth, qualified lead generation, and share of voice. A 14x return on investment is achievable for high-quality programs, but only if the content is distributed where buyers actually look. This means prioritizing LinkedIn, private communities, and direct peer referrals over broad public channels. The goal isn't just visibility, it is credibility that translates into revenue. Conclusion: building credibility with CISOs is no longer about shouting the loudest. It's about borrowing trust from the voices they already respect. Startups that align with niche practitioners, respect the long sales cycle, and prioritize verifiable proof over hype will break through the 95% trust deficit. The path forward is clear. Stop broadcasting to disinterested consumers, start engaging with peers, and let the experts lead the conversation. Frequently asked questions. How can a cybersecurity startup find influencers who actually reach CISOs? Startups should look for creators who actively engage in private communities like the CISO Society, private CISO roundtables, and signal groups. The vetting process must assess whether a creator can explain complex concepts accurately and demonstrate hands-on experience, prioritizing quality of comments over vanity metrics. Why do consumer-facing influencers fail to generate B2B security leads? Consumer influencers fail because their audiences do not match the CISO profile. 60% of CISOs do not follow influencers at all. Additionally, failures happen when brands push corporate marketing through an influencer's network instead of letting the influencer lead with authentic voice. What criteria should startups use to vet potential thought leadership partners? Vetting should focus on technical expertise, industry recognition, and audience composition rather than follower counts. Startups must ensure the partner can explain complex concepts accurately and has a history of sharing insights independent of their employer. How much should a startup budget for paid thought leadership campaigns? Costs are manageable with podcast appearances starting around $500 and in-person keynotes running up to $2,500. The sweet spot for B2B creator programs is a 3 to 6 month partnership to allow for genuine expertise development. What content formats are most effective for building trust with enterprise CISOs? Technical webinars with Q&A, comparative analyses acknowledging trade-offs, and implementation case studies drive the highest engagement. One well-designed annual research report can carry 6 to 12 months of pipeline, while long-form written analyses are preferred over short-form video. How do cybersecurity vendors prove credibility before the first sale? Vendors must provide verifiable security artifacts, including independent assessments, certifications like SOC 2 Type 2, and documented operational maturity. These artifacts should be packaged alongside thought leadership content with explicit ties to recognized frameworks like NIST, ISO, and CIS. Third-party validation from auditors and peers carries significantly more weight than analyst reports. What metrics matter most when measuring thought leadership ROI? Effective measurement tracks account-level engagement rather than individual conversions, with success defined as multiple stakeholders within a target account engaging with content. Key metrics include content consumption depth, qualified lead generation, and share of voice. Cohort analysis comparing influenced accounts against non-influenced ones shows true impact on win rates and sales cycle length. Understand the stories that matter. Every week, I break down the most important updates in cybersecurity and AI law and policy. Human written, deeply analyzed. I don't spam. Read the privacy policy for more info. Email address, close privacy policy, accessibility statement. 2026, Kane McGladrey, CISSP, cookie consent. Articles, 2026, 2027, fiscal year, tax and financial measures. Technical articles, 2026, 2027, fiscal year, tax and financial measures. Textile Focus by Textile Focus, June 13th, 2026. Share this document outlines proposed changes and continuations of tax policies and financial incentives for the 2026 to 2027 fiscal year. Key changes and reductions. Reduced income tax on cash assistance. The income tax rate on cash assistance will be reduced from 10% to 5%. Source tax rate. The source tax rate will remain at 1%. Corporate tax rate. The corporate tax rate will remain unchanged. Incentives for business and export growth. SRO issuance for direct exporters to enhance the capacity of small and medium enterprises and facilitate exports. A SRO statutory regulatory order will be issued to allow direct exporters to procure raw materials from domestic suppliers. This aims to streamline the supply chain for export-oriented businesses. SRO No. 96 Law 2026-51 Customs dated 08/08/06/2026 Continuous Bond Facility. Eligible units of the same establishment, even if they are separate entities, can receive the continuous bond facility if they are located within a 60-kilometer radius of the main establishment. Import duty tariff exemptions for solar power. To promote the solar power sector, crucial equipment for solar power generation will be exempt from import duties, supplementary duties, and advanced taxes until June 30, 2031. Incentives for battery components, import facilities for mounting structures, cell components, battery packs, and related systems for battery manufacturing will continue until June 30, 2028. New battery technologies to encourage the production of sodium-ion and lithium-ion batteries. import duty and tax exemptions on necessary components will be extended until June 30, 2030. Effluent treatment plant chemicals, existing duty exemptions on chemicals required for operating effluent treatment plants will be extended until June 30, 2027. Reduced raw material import duty. The standard rate for imported raw materials for industries will be reduced from 5% to 4%. Synthetic woven fabrics, the 10% supplementary duty on imported synthetic woven fabrics will be withdrawn, making it 0% to prevent misuse of benefits, changes in tax procedures and compliance. Reduced utility permit time. The time limit for obtaining utility permits within factory premises will be reduced from 48 hours to 24 hours. VAT return filing. Taxpayers will have the option to file VAT returns at the beginning of the year. Increased allowable expenses. Proposals include increasing the limits for business expenses such as perquisites, entertainment, sample costs, and promotional expenses to reduce the tax burden on taxpayers. Bonded warehouse raw material import. For raw material imports under a bonded warehouse without a bank guarantee, a minimum value addition of 30% for re-export will be proposed. Quarterly VAT return filing. The existing system of monthly VAT return filing will be shifted to a quarterly system. Reduced import duty on polyester staple fiber to support the domestic production of polyester spun yarn. A 5% import duty will be imposed on imported polyester staple fiber. Specific tax rate adjustments. Reduced tax on electricity purchase. The source tax rate on electricity purchase from power producers will be reduced from 4% to 3%. Reduced source tax on fuel. The source tax rate on fuel supplied to the dyeing industry will be reduced from 1.5% to 1%. Reduced tax on recycled materials. The tax rate on recycled and recyclable raw materials will be reduced from 3% to 1%. Reduced withholding tax for non-residents. The withholding tax rate for non-residents. The withholding tax rate for non-resident taxpayers on dividend income will be reduced from 15% to 7.5% for easier remittance abroad. Reduced withholding tax on reinsurance premiums. The withholding tax rate on reinsurance premiums for resident taxpayers will be reduced from 10% to 5%. Other proposed measures. Accelerated depreciation for garments and sports. A proposal to provide accelerated depreciation benefits of 60% in the first year and 40% in the second year on the construction and machinery of production facilities and sports facilities outside the Dhaka and Chittagong metropolitan areas. Single window system for business setup. A single window system will be made mandatory for online business setup and licensing, with the process to be completed within 7 days. Expedited approval process. For all approved permits, if the relevant authority does not provide feedback within the stipulated time, the permit will be considered approved on the day the application is submitted. Company registration time. Company registration will be completed within 48 hours. Plug-and-play facilities. Plug-and-play type facilities will be launched in designated industrial and economic zones. Government laboratory testing. In addition to government laboratories, ISO-accredited private laboratories will also be utilized for testing. Mohideen Rubel, Additional Managing Director, Denim Expert Ltd, former Director, BGMEA, Tax Budget Incentive Tax, Share. Previous article, U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol launches forensic analysis with Oratane to establish physical assurance program and scientifically verify U.S. cotton origin. Next article, DTA Expo 2026 and DCC Expo 2026, set to showcase global innovations for Bangladesh's textile and chemical industries. You may also like news and views. BGMEA welcomes proposed FY 2026-27 budget, calls for additional support for RMG sector events, business-friendly budget, effective implementation is essential, DCCI President, industry focus, what should the next budget look like for the garment industry? Advertisements, Spot M&G, join our weekly newsletter, email full name, upcoming events, 300 times 300, 5 web banner, Intex Bangladesh, 1 ITM, textile focus, denim focus, 150 times 150, web banner, Intex SRI Lanka, 1 It's 26, banner 300 by 300 V2 Similar News at Deco iShow Group. Sustainability is woven into our business strategy and daily operations. Conversations June 14, 2026. Revolutionary eyelash lace with 4-way stretch. Industry focus June 14, 2026. Discussion held on economic diplomacy and Bangladesh's future economic strategy. Events June 14, 2026. Recent random results of the 38th ITMF Global Textile Industry Survey, June 10, 2026 at Deco iShow Group. Sustainability is woven into our business strategy and daily operations, June 14, 2026. Oxane Cosmetic AS orders high-capacity spunlace line from Andritz June 9, 2026. 2 strategic business units of Deco iShow Group have been recognized for successfully completing Gap Inc.'s PACE. How to create training manuals your employees or customers will use. TechSmith Table of Contents. Why training manuals are so important. When your training manual is necessary, key elements of successful training manuals, how to create a training manual people will actually use, design tips for an engaging training manual, how to keep your training manual updated, tips for empowering your teams with visual communication, turn your knowledge into training manuals that work, FAQs. Subscribe to TechSmith's newsletter, email.com. Subscribe now. The best training manuals turn scattered knowledge into practical, searchable guidance. When instructions are visual, easy to follow, and clearly organized, teams stop repeating questions, and new hires get up to speed faster. The difference between a manual that collects dust and one that's a daily go-to comes down to design and accessibility. When done right, your training content cuts support requests, smooths out onboarding, and keeps processes consistent across your organization. This guide covers the essential elements of effective training manuals, from identifying your scope to designing engaging content that employees and customers will reference again and again. Why training manuals are so important? A training manual is a structured reference that explains how to complete tasks step by step with the right context and visuals. When built well, it has a few major impacts. Faster onboarding. New hires find answers without waiting for help. Standardized processes. Everyone follows the same steps, ensuring consistent quality, lower costs, fewer repeat questions, and support requests free up time. Visual manuals are especially effective as they appeal to visual, auditory, and writing learning styles. Videos and screenshots reduce ambiguity, let trainees go at their own pace, capture expert know-how, and make content feel more approachable, leading to better engagement and faster ramp-up, faster onboarding, and reduced ramp-up time. When new team members have access to solid training materials, they become productive faster. Clear documentation removes the guesswork and takes the load off your experienced team. Visual content makes a huge difference. Videos and annotated screenshots help new employees grasp complex processes more quickly than text alone, giving them the freedom to learn at their own speed. Standardized processes across teams and locations. Training manuals help ensure tasks get done the same way, no matter who's doing them or where they're located. This consistency is critical for teams with multiple offices, remote workers, or frequent staff changes. With shared documentation, quality stays steady, mistakes drop, and collaboration gets easier because everyone's on the same page. Lower operational costs and support burden. When people can solve common issues themselves, your support teams get fewer tickets and interruptions. Organizations also save on training costs when materials can be reused across multiple hiring cycles. Teams spend less time in meetings explaining procedures and more time on productive work when information is readily accessible. Make great tutorial videos. Camtasia makes it ridiculously easy to make tutorial videos that keep your viewers engaged. Free download an image of a laptop playing a training video created in Camtasia. When your training manual is necessary, you likely need a manual when teams repeatedly answer the same questions. Processes vary by person, shift, or location. Onboarding process takes too long. Compliance requires documented steps. Critical know-how lives with a few experts. Key times to create one include HR ramp-ups, operation scaling, product or feature launches, formalizing workflows, major rollouts, and regulatory updates. Key elements of successful training manuals. People turn to manuals when they can find what they need fast and follow it without friction. Here's how to focus on audience, structure, language, and visuals that eliminate confusion, purpose, and audience. Clarity of purpose should drive every decision you make when building a manual. Who are you creating it for? What do they need to do with it? Define your primary users and assess their experience levels. New hires need more background and step-by-step direction. Seasoned employees may just want a fast reference. Also consider when and where users will access the manual. If they're at a desk, longer procedures and full-page screenshots work for mobile. Use concise content and touch-friendly navigation. Clear structure and navigation. How your manual is organized affects how useful it is in the moment. Logical, intuitive structure reduces the time it takes to go from question to answer. A helpful structure includes progressive complexity. Start with basic concepts before diving into advanced tasks. Consistent heading hierarchy. Stick to a clear format for sections and subsections. Detailed table of contents. Give users an overview and clickable navigation. Cross-references, link related topics to reduce duplication and improve usability. Consistent branding and language consistency builds trust and makes content easier to follow. Formatting, use a consistent layout, fonts and styles so users don't have to relearn the format each time. Glossary, define key terms in a central place to keep language clear and consistent across the manual. Branding, align your tone, visuals, and structure with your broader brand to create a cohesive experience. Visual aids and examples. Visuals remove guesswork and reinforce both comprehension and retention. Use Camtasia Snagit to capture annotated screenshots that highlight the exact UI element to click. Use Camtasia to record multi-step flows that are hard to explain in text. For dynamic procedures, short videos often speed up understanding. Accessibility matters. Add captions in transcripts and avoid calling dynamic captions accessible when they aren't the same as closed captions. This Camtasia tutorial explains the difference well. If you'd like to learn more, training manuals work best when they evolve over time. Feedback turns a good resource into a great one. To gather feedback includes simple feedback tools like rating options or comment boxes. Set regular review intervals, quarterly or yearly. Use analytics to track which sections get the most or least use. Interview users about how helpful and usable the manual is. Go from screen recording to polished video. A screen recording is just the start. Camtasia's editor helps you add the callouts, animations, and edits you need to create a truly professional video. Free download an image of a laptop showing the Camtasia drag and drop editing feature. How to create a training manual people will actually use. Understanding what makes a good manual is only half the challenge. The following step-by-step guide provides a framework for writing employee training manuals that people want to use. Step 1. Identify your training scope and goals. Your first and most important step is to define what the manual will cover. Scope creep is a common failure point. Trying to document every scenario leads to content overload. Start by listing all potential topics, then narrow the focus by identifying which ones happen most often and have the biggest impact. Be specific about what's in and out of scope, and define success up front. Ask yourself specific outcomes. What will users be able to do after using the manual? Measurable targets. How will you track whether the manual is successful? Realistic timelines. When will the manual be complete? Define limitations. What topics fall outside the manual scope? When would a training video be more appropriate? Step 2. Choose your format and tools. The right format supports user needs and aligns with how often content needs updating. It can also influence how often and how easily people use it. Format, best use case pros, cons PDF, stable procedures, offline needs, printable, consistent layout, harder to update, version control required, online wiki, frequently updated content, searchable, linkable, easy to cross-reference, requires internet governance needed, video library multi-step, dynamic tasks, fast to grasp, shows exact steps, planning captions and updates take time, interactive decision trees, branching, self-paced, trackable, more technical requirements. Also consider who's responsible for maintaining it, how often will changes be needed. Stable content works for PDFs, fast changing info doesn't. Step 3, organize content into logical sections. Structure affects findability. Your organization method should reflect how users naturally think about their work. Popular structures include by job role or team, by process or function, by how often the task occurs, by skill level or complexity. Before committing, test your approach with a few users to make sure it feels intuitive. Step 4, draft clear instructions and visuals. Use a consistent format for each task to make your content easier to follow. Begin with the outcome. You'll create X. List any prerequisites like access files or permissions. Present each step as a single numbered action. Include the expected result so users know they're on track. Wrap up with a short troubleshooting note for common errors. Support the steps with visuals. Snagit works well for screenshots with callouts and cursor highlights. Camtasia is best for workflows that involve motion or precise timing. Step 5, gather feedback and refine. Testing with real users will reveal gaps you may have missed. It also shows how useful your manual really is. Start with a small test group. 5 to 10 users is plenty. Watch how they use the manual while performing real tasks. Take notes on confusion points and where they get stuck. Revise based on what you observe and not just what they say. This may take a few rounds, but it's worth the time to build something that really works. Step 6, distribute and track usage. Even the best manual won't get used if people can't find it or don't know it exists. Rollout and visibility are key. Effective distribution includes clear announcements, tell users where to find the training manuals. Multiple access points provide links in all relevant systems like wikis and Slack. Manage your training, help leaders direct team members to resources. Microlearning would work well here. Usage tracking, monitor which sections are used the most and least often. Follow-up, check in with users after the initial distribution and collect relevant feedback. Design tips for an engaging training manual. Even excellent content can fail when the presentation makes information hard to process. Visual information often has higher retention rates than text-only content, making design choices key to your training manual's effectiveness. Here are a few design best practices for training manuals. Scannable layouts, use headers, bullets, and short paragraphs. Visual breaks include images every few paragraphs. Highlight boxes call out critical information with distinct formatting. Progress indicators show users where they are in multi-step training processes. Keep in mind that font consistency throughout your training documentation will reduce cognitive load as users become familiar with its formatting. Also, high contrast between text and background colors provides the clearest reading experience regardless of medium. How to keep your training manual updated. Outdated documentation causes confusion and erodes trust. If users spot something wrong, they may assume the rest is unreliable. Stay current with monthly reviews. Check for recent process changes or software updates. Annual audits. Evaluate your manual's overall structure and strategic alignment. Update triggers. Revise your manuals after major process changes or when you receive relevant user feedback. Version control. Add date stamps and clear version numbers consistently across all your manuals. Change notices. Communicate timely updates to all manual users. Don't forget to assign update ownership to specific team members and create a simple review schedule to track when sections were last checked. Tips for empowering your teams with visual communication. Modern learners process visual information faster than text-heavy instructions, so multimedia content is essential. It makes content more engaging, easier to understand, and faster to apply. Use visuals based on the training need. Annotated screenshots highlight specific buttons or interface elements. Process flowcharts show decision paths based on specific conditions. Short video tutorials demonstrate dynamic procedures with multiple steps. Infographics present quick reference information in a scannable format. Screen recording tools like Camtasia and Snagit make it easy to create professional-looking content without needing a video production team. They also integrate with many popular business platforms and export to multiple formats to meet your unique delivery and distribution needs. Turn your knowledge into training manuals that work If you're wondering how to create effective manuals your teams will actually use, start with what's already working. Document your top FAQs as short visual tasks. Keep the format simple, the instructions direct, and the visuals clear. Bit by bit, those entries will add up to a go-to resource for onboarding, daily work, and quality control, saving time and cutting confusion. Ready to build visual manuals that scale with your team? See all of TechSmith's products today to learn more about what you can do. Build your next training video with Camtasia, record your screen or camera, then use the video editor to add polish and clarity. Learn more, an image of a laptop showing the Camtasia drag and drop editing feature, FAQs. How long should a training manual be for different types of training? A training manual should be as long as necessary to cover essential information, but concise enough to maintain engagement, typically 20 to 50 pages for departmental manuals, with modules that users can reference independently. What software tools are most effective for creating professional training manuals? Word processing software for text, screen capture tools for visual instructions, and video recording software for complex procedures work best. Many teams use integrated solutions like Snagit and Camtasia that combine these capabilities to streamline creation. How can I increase employee engagement with training manuals? Make manuals easily searchable, integrate them into daily workflows, and ensure managers reference them during training sessions. Successful adoption comes from making the manual the fastest way to find answers rather than just another document. Additional resources, best practices for effective business communication with video, collaborative video editing software, why teams choose Camtasia, how to make instructional videos, step-by-step guide, Airbus A350 Technical Training Manual Contents 1. Auto Flight System, AFS Description 2. Auto Flight System, AFS Control and Indicating 3. There now download Manual 4 in other languages. Save Auto Flight System, AFS Description, Flight Guidance, and Envelope System. The Flight Guidance and Envelope System, FGA, is hosted in each primary flight control computer prim. The FGA's functions related to the AFC control are as follows: Flight Envelope, FE, Autopilot, AP, Flight Director, FD, Autothrust, ATHR. Each prim includes two channels, Side A and Side B, that give command monitor functions. The two channels must operate to do the prim functions. The FE functions are computation of the characteristic speed, detection of abnormal configurations, detection of reactive wind shear, estimation of the weight and center of gravity, CG. The FE gives the commands to the braking control system, BCS, for maximum braking, if there's a runway overrun detection, and or to tell the crew there's a runway overrun, brake to vacate, BTV. The AP function gives the orders as follows: position of the control surfaces on the three axes, pitch, roll, yaw, steering of the nose landing gear wheels, auto rollout function through the wheel steering control system, WSCS. The WSCS does the AC lateral control through the nose wheel steering. The FD functions give guidance orders used in manual control mode. These orders are shown on the PFDs. The ATHR controls the engine thrust target N1 through the propulsion control system PCS system related to the position of the throttle control levers. The flight control unit, FCU, and the EFIS control panels are used to engage or disengage the automatic flight system AFS functions, select the mode, the prims, do the computations, engagements, modes, targets, send back the data to be shown, green lights, modes, targets to the AFS control panel for the FCU only. There are two EFIS FCU backup applications hosted in two CPIOMs of Type J. They transmit the auto-flight orders of the flight crew if there is a failure of a FCU or EFS control panel. The primary sensors are the Air Data Inertial Reference System, ADARS, and NAV sensors. The flight guidance FG modes are shown in the flight mode annunciator, FMA area of the PFDs. The CPIOMs include two flight control data concentrators, FCDCs. They do the system maintenance and give the warnings, cautions, and indications of the AFS and primary flight control system, PFCS. They also have the weight and balance backup computation WBBC function. The WBBC calculates its own estimation of the AC weight and CG independently of the fuel system. The WBBC is used by the flight control and FG functions as follows: to consolidate the fuel system data. If there is a fuel system failure, the flight management system FMS helps the flight crew in navigation and flight preparation. The FMS computes the most efficient flight in fuel and time savings and automatically navigates the AC. It calculates performance data and the most fuel-efficient route to fly based on typical AC parameters such as weight, cruise altitude, and actual AC position. The flight crew uses the flight management FM functions through the use of the KCCU. FM data are shown on the CDS. For example, FM data are shown through dedicated pages on the MFDs. Auto Flight System, AFS, Description, Part 1, Save. Flight Guidance, the APFD guidance orders are computed in the prims in relation to the different inputs received through the A-Rank 429 buses, critical data, the AFDX network from the applications hosted in the CPIOMs. These inputs are the characteristic speeds from the FE internally to the prims, the mode and target selections from the FCU or the FCU backup applications hosted in the CPIOM-JS if there is a FCU failure, the managed targets from the flight management computers, FMCs, through the AFDX network, the Air Data Inertial Reference Units, ADIRIS, and the Integrated Standby Instrument System, ISIS data. The ISIS sends to the prim some air data parameters used to consolidate the parameters received from the ADIRIS. The slat flap control computers, SFCCs, send the position of the slats, flaps, and slat flap control lever. The multi-mode receivers, MMRs, send the ILS and GPS signals for approaches. The traffic alert and collision avoidance system, TCAS, sends orders if there is a resolution advisory to prevent manual or automatic collision avoidance. When a corrective resolution advisory of the TCAS occurs, it is necessary to start a maneuver to change the current vertical speed of the AC. This speed must agree with the TCAS advisory shown on the vertical speed indicator, VSI. The LGERS sends the gear position and ground flight status to give the LG ARD status, extension, retraction, gears locked, door status for characteristic speed computation, lever position for air data reference ADR, which monitors the tuning and characteristic speed computation. If the AP is not engaged, the FD engages if it is not already engaged, stays engaged in a vertical mode called TCAS mode. It gives guidance cues in relation to the vertical speed advisory of the TCAS. If the AP is engaged, the vertical mode reverts to the TCAS mode and does the trajectory deviation in relation to the TCAS vertical speed advisory. FD stays engaged or engages if not already engaged. The crew can always disconnect the AP for the manual maneuver with the FD. The computed guidance orders are sent from the prims to the PFDs through the AFDX network when the FD is engaged. The computed guidance orders are internally sent to the prims to the flight control function when the AP is engaged for automatic deflection of the flight control surfaces, automatic nose wheel steering through the AFDX network, the side stick unit SSU, and the rudder pedals are locked. When the AP is engaged, if one prim requests it, the prim monitors the hydraulic or AC power sources used by the actuators, computers, and sensors of the AC control surfaces. Computes maintenance ground data related to the maintenance phase, low hydraulics, and all engines stopped. The FCDC WBPC application uses the engine fuel mass flow from the PCS to compute an estimated weight of the AC. The two FCDCs send through the AFDX network the backup weight and the backup CG to all the prims. The overall precision approach capability, ILS, Global Navigation Satellite System, Landing System, GLS, and Satellite Landing System is computed in the FCDC through the data received from each prim. The FCDC acquires signals to know if the DC power sources are segregated. The hydraulic source, AC electric source, and DC segregation data are used for the auto-lane capability computation. The prim FCDC transmits some data to the FWS to trigger the AFS and FE warnings, some memos, and some warnings which are not directly related to the AFS. These data are sent through the AFDX network and the FCDC. This is not applicable to the AP disconnection warning, which is triggered by the FWS, Audio Management System, AMS, and CDS through a hardwired discrete from each prim unit. Auto Flight System, AFS description, Part 2 Save Auto Thrust. The general condition of the ATHR engagement is based on data received from the ADIRIS and LGERS. The prims compute the ATHR target from different inputs. These inputs are the characteristic speeds and the alpha floor detection signal from the FE, the vertical mode from the APFD, the SpeedMAC mode, and the target selection from the FCU or the FCU backup applications if there is an FCU failure. The managed SpeedMAC target from the FMCs, the positions of the throttle control levers through analog buses, the N1 data, actual limits, and the engine failure data for compensation also from the PCS. At each TCAS resolution advisory, the ADUH engages if it is not already engaged, stays engaged in speed mode with the current AC speed as a target. If the TCAS order is not adapted to the AC performance, the response is the maximum possible in the requested direction. The primary objective is to stay in the normal flight envelope of the AC and thus prevent AP disengagement during the TCAS alert. The crew can manually disengage the ATHR as follows. He can push one of the two ATHR instinctive disconnect PBSW on the throttle control levers, push the ATHR key on the FCU, or select the ATHR function on the AFSCP backup page of the MFD, set the throttle control levers to the idle position, set the two throttle control levers to the reverse position, auto thrust save, flight management system, the FMS does with the related FMCs, many functions related to the flight planning, navigation, NAV, and performance perf optimization with NAV and perf databases, DBs. The FMS functions optimize the flight plan, FPLN for speed, thrust, and altitude, fuel planning and flight time optimization to minimize the flight cost. The FMS does these primary functions: NAV with related radio tuning, no more AC position computation, but the FMS continues to compute a position, inertial reference system, IRS, radio FPLN construction and modification, performance calculation and optimization, computation of the trajectory and predictions, guidance to give the lateral and vertical flight guidance with the guidance modes and targets to fly the active FPLN, FM human-machine interface, HMI, through a display global work package. The NAV database, DB, is used to make the lateral FPLN with waypoints, radio navigation aids, and runways. Has a worldwide coverage. The DB content is updated every 28 days by the airline who is responsible for it. The perf database DB is used to make and optimize the vertical FPLN with the AC aerodynamic and engine models. The KCCUs and the MFDs are used to select, change, and monitor the FPLN. In addition to the MFD, the FMS lateral and vertical data are shown on the main zone and vertical display of the NDs and also on the PFDs. The navigation function computes the AC position estimation and makes an accurate analysis of this computation. The FMS uses data from the systems that follow: the navigation aids, NAVA aids, MMR GPS, DMER MMR for ILS, the ADRS, which supplies air data, computed airspeed, altitude, vertical speed, Mach number, etc., navigation data, position, ground speed, velocities, and accelerations, etc., attitude data, pitch angle, pitch and roll, rotation rates, pitch and roll rotation, accelerations, heading data, magnetic heading, true heading, yaw rotation rates, etc., time data, the fuel quantity and management system, FQMS applications. The FMCs receive the AC gross wage, GW, CG and fuel on board, FOB, fuel data from the FQMS applications, hosted in the CPIOMs. These data are sent through the CRDCs, which give path segregation through the AFDX network. The active FMCs tune the navides through the radio and audio management panels, RMPs. The FMS ATC function exchanges data with the ATC centers through the ATC Data Link application and the Avionics Communication Router, ACR. The FMS AOC function exchanges data with the AOC centers through the ACR. ATC and AOC centers are called Operational Ground Centers. Data link FMS ATC. The flight crew can request a FPLN revision clearance to the ATC center with the FMS ATC function. The ATC center can ask the aircraft to give some parameters, e.g. altitude, immediately or in special conditions, e.g. at 10 a.m. Data link FMS AOC. The flight crew can request a FPLN initialization takeoff, or wind data to the AOC center with the FMC ATC function. The request starts from the special pages of the MFDs, then the AOC center will reply with the different data requested by the flight crew. After acceptance, the flight crew can put the received flight initialization data into the active or secondary FPLN. The flight crew can print specific data on the printer 1EG FPLN wind data report. The FMS data are shown on 3 display units, DUs, the center lower DU, MFDs, the 2 inner DUs left-right, PFDs, and NDs. The MFDs show various different data such as the flight plans, perf data, and software PNS through the related pages. The PFDs show various different data such as managed targets, EG speeds, critical engine failure speed, V1, rotation speed, VR, etc. The NDs show in the main primary zone lateral FPLN vertical data, e.g. top of climb, TC and wind direction, etc. on the vertical display. Vertical FPLN altitude constraints in the FMS dialog window, FPLN revision data, flight management system, save auto, flight system, AFS control and indicating 3, AP and FD and engagement, disengagement logics on ground 3. The conditions common to the AP and FD engagements on the ground are 1 prim minimum in operation, 2 air data reference units ADR minimum are aligned, the FCU is in operation, the aircraft with all the engines stopped and with low hydraulic pressure. The FD is automatically engaged at aircraft power-up at engine start on the ground and in go-around mode. The pilots can engage the AP with the AP1 and or AP2 keys of the FCU. The APs are engaged one at a time, but dual AP engagement is possible in the approach, APPR, and go-around GA modes. When an AP is engaged, the 3 green bars of the AP key on the FCU are on, the side sticks are locked, the rudder pedals are locked. The AP is disengaged if one of these conditions occurs. The AP1 and or AP2 keys are released. The takeover and priority push button switches are pushed. The side sticks are unlocked. The rudder pedals are unlocked. A fault is detected. One engine is started on the ground. The other AP is engaged, not in APPR. The FD is disengaged if one of these conditions occurs. The FD key on the FCU is released. The aircraft gets to VLS. The aircraft gets to VMO. MO, a fault is detected. The status, engagement, activation of the APFD modes is shown on the Flight Mode Annunciator, FMA. The FMA is divided into 5 sections. For the longitudinal and lateral modes, the first line shows the mode active in green. The second line shows the mode armed in cyan and for target display when in selected mode in case of APFD disconnection. Aural warning is broadcasted and attention getters are used to warn the flight crew. ATHR manual engagement disengagement on ground 3. The ATHR is manually engaged when the ATHR key located on the flight control unit, FCU, is pushed, or with the FCU backup if there is a FCU fault. The ATHR is disengaged if one of these conditions occurs. One of the 2 ATHR instinctive disconnect push button switches located on the throttle control levers, engines 1 or 2, is pushed. The throttle control levers are set to the idle E position. The ATHR key of the FCU is pushed or through the FCU backup if there is a FCU fault. The two thrust reverser control levers are set to one of the two verse positions. Messages related to the ATHR are shown on the flight mode annunciator FMA. The right column shows the engagement status, the left column shows different ATHR modes and the necessary operations. In case of ATHR disconnection, or a warning is broadcasted and attention getters are used to warn the flight crew. Note: when the ATHR is engaged, it can be active or inactive. If the ATHR is active, it manages the thrust. If the ATHR is not active, the cockpit crews control the thrust through the throttle control levers. Main FCU to backup FCU switching 3. The FCU backup function is used if there is a fault of the main FCU. If an FCU fault is detected, AFS or EFI's control panel fault, the related FCU backup part, AutoFlight or EFI's page on the MFD automatically changes back to the active mode. The backup function keeps the settings of the FCU. No pilot inputs are necessary. In the active mode, the pilots can change the current modes and settings only on the AutoFlight and EFI's pages of the MFD. If they select modes, targets, or settings directly on the FCU, there will be no effect and no data will be shown on the FCU display windows. If no FCU fault is detected, it is possible to force the active mode as follows. Switch off the FCU with the potentiometers included in the center light of the main instrument panel, or select the applicable toggle button on the AutoFlight or EFIS page. The related FCU part, AFS or EFIS control panel, is then automatically switched off except panel lighting. When the FCU is switched off, attention getters and ECAM warning are used to alert the pilots. After you use the FCU backup function and when you switch on again the FCU, the main settings are restored on the FCU. FMC faults. 3. The FMS operates in different modes: dual, independent, single, and standby. Dual mode, 2 FMCs, one for the display on the captain's side and the other for the display on the FO side, operate in dual mode. The 2 FMCs make their computation independently and exchange different data for the synchronization. FMCA supplies FMS1 indication. FMCB supplies FMS2 indication. The master FMC, which supplies data for flight guidance, is FMCA if AP1 is engaged or no AP engaged. FMCB if AP2 is engaged, independent mode. The FM automatically sets to independent mode if the configuration is not correct. Database or operational software between the 2 FMCs that operate in dual mode, or if a crosstalk failure occurs. In this mode, each FMC operate without synchronization. Single mode, the FM operates in single mode when one FMC drives the display on the CAPT and FO sides. Standby mode, the third FMC is a standby unit operated automatically if there's a failure of the master FMC or the slave FMC reconfiguration. If a failure of the second FMC occurs, the first FMC drives the display on the CAPT and FO sides. Single mode operation after a manual reconfiguration. Crew action. Free access, a path forward for the engineering and technology. Farah Amnimna Orchid, Icon Siram Ramakrishna Orchid, Icon pages 1383-1385, received 22 June 2023, published online 06 June 2023. Cite this article, https://die.org, Tenthra N0807373937, 2023 222 9650, crossmark logo crossmark. In this article, History of Technology, History of Engineering, The Life of the Engineer references, Taylor and Francis Online, top full article, figures and data, references, citations, metrics, reprints, and permissions, view PDF, open in a new window, view EPUB, open in a new window, share. The body of knowledge is known as technology, and the process of developing technologies is called engineering. Citation 1, technology can relate to inventions as rudimentary as stone tools or as complicated as genetic engineering. And information technology, engineering attempts to use these inventions to meet societal demands from water, energy, medical care, technical advancements, etc. Herein, the history of technology and engineering projects was in chronological synchrony long ago. History of technology, looking at the evolution of humankind's lifestyle, as observed in Figure 1, one would be amazed at where humanity started at least 2.6 million years ago. The survival tools were sharp flakes of stone and large unshaped stones used as knives, hammers, and anvils. Citation 2, not until 1 million years ago was fire discovered, followed by Neolithic Revolution. 15,000 years ago, agriculture, woven fabrics, and the wheel were invented. By 6,000 years BCE, nearly at the same time, Mesopotamian civilizations in the Tigris-Euphrates River Basin and Egyptian civilizations in the Nile River Valley developed their first irrigation systems. The Indus civilization was most prevalent in the northwestern regions of South Asia, where Harappan artifacts were evident in pottery, seals, weights, bricks, and monumental architecture. During the same era, the Maya were the most well-known of Mesoamerica's classical civilizations, emerging in the Yucatan at approximately 2600 BC. The Maya invented astronomy, calendars, hieroglyphic writing, and ornate ceremonial architecture, including temple pyramids, palaces, and observatories created without metal tools. Chinese culture was one of the world's 4 ancient civilizations at the same time and made important contributions to papermaking, printing, gunpowder and compass, Figure 1, engineering and technology timeline, starting from fire and stone to ending with genetic engineering and other modern discoveries. Figure 1, engineering and technology timeline, starting from fire and stone to ending with genetic engineering and other modern discoveries. Display full size, not until 950 CE in Persia that windmills were first built. These were horizontal windmills with vertical shafts supporting the blades. In 1765, the steam engine became one of the most important inventions of the Industrial Revolution. In 1876, German engineer Nikolaus Otto built an engine that, unlike the steam engine, used the burning of fuel inside the engine to move a piston. This type of engine would later be used to power automobiles. In 1901, the radio was successfully introduced to send transmissions over long distances. 73 years later, the internet was introduced to the world, where data can be broken down into smaller pieces before being transmitted to the right destination. Imagine how humankind's life would be now without the internet. Not forgetting that the 90s also included airplanes, rocketry, television, computers, and nuclear power inventions. Finally, In 2017, the Artificial Intelligence Program was announced. Through machine learning, artificial intelligence has become better and can compete with humans. Modern technology has paved the way to undergoing tremendous products. What was impossible in the past is becoming the new possible and exciting products to develop. People now rely on smartphones, watches, and faster, more portable, and higher powered computers than before to complete their daily chores and activities. Humans' lives have been improved regarding means of communication, transportation, healthcare, and networking. The best thing is that technology is always improving by allowing for more complex features. History of engineering. Major engineering undertakings have existed for at least 5,000 years. As seen in Figure 2, civil engineering is the oldest branch of engineering. Citation 3, it deals with designing, constructing, analyzing, and maintaining natural and man-made structures such as bridges, roads, dams, and buildings. From sharp flakes of stone used as knives and bigger unshaped stones used as hammers and anvils into cranes, drills, transit mixers, concrete mixers, etc. Tools development played an important part in the construction of the later skyscrapers. The introduction of more imaginative structural forms in buildings and to the development of prefabrication techniques. Figure 2, list of worldwide existing and future in-demand engineering degrees. The roots of engineering are the civil, mechanical, electrical, and chemical engineering. Figure 2, list of worldwide existing and future in-demand engineering degrees. The roots of engineering are the civil, mechanical, electrical, and chemical engineering. Display full size. Likewise, during the 19th century, advances in physics and machine tools enabled mechanical engineering to be separated from engineering. It encompasses the development of machines, manufacturing things, and generating electricity and energy. Mechanical engineering has recently evolved to encompass increasingly technological and innovative subdisciplines such as automobile engineering, industrial engineering, nanotechnology, structural analysis, robots, and ergonomics. Electrical engineering may be said to have emerged as a discipline in 1864 when the Scottish physicist James Clerk Maxwell mathematically defined the basic rules of electricity and demonstrated that electromagnetic energy radiation moves through space at the speed of light. The demand for electrical engineers was not recognized until 40 years later when Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, 1876, and Thomas A. Edison invented the incandescent lamp, 1878. Electrical engineering has now been subdivided into electronics, telephony and satellite communications, electric light, power, and their interdisciplinary applications with mechanical engineering to design turbines, generators, transmission lines, motors, etc. Chemical engineering has been around as long as the process industries. Its origins can be traced back to early civilizations' fermentation and evaporation processes. Modern chemical engineering arose with the emergence of large-scale chemical manufacturing activities in the second half of the 19th century. Chemical engineering has been geared towards solving the difficulties of constructing and managing large plants for continuous production throughout its emergence as an autonomous science. Chemical engineers are engaged in plastics, polymers, synthetic fibers, engineering, the pharmaceutical industry, the nuclear industry, and the metals processing sector, with a thirst for new technologies and the ongoing evolution of technology. The future of engineering and technology has become intriguing. The New Humankind research has actively shaped engineering fields to create critical and transdisciplinary initiatives and products. Conversely, technology is the long-term development of systematic manufacturing and doing things. A uniform technique for surveying technological experience and developments within each historical period has been adopted. This begins with the time's major materials and sources of power and progresses to their applications in food production, the manufacturing industry, building construction, transportation and communications, military technology, and medical technology, the life of the engineer. The world is moving into a radical framework where the body and mind are the fields of operational changes. Engineering makes it possible to manipulate and change any aspect of the human being, from physical to intellectual, social, psychological, or physiological. Engineers are now expected to be innovative and creative. Civil engineers will be required to reinvent cities, mechanical engineers to improve how people move, biological and chemical engineers to resolve tough health concerns, and computer engineers to design the technology for developing solutions that allow exchanging data for a completely connected and efficient world to be realized through artificial intelligence and other technologies. Biomedical engineers will oversee upgrading and inventing new versions of prostheses and organs, diagnostic devices such as MRI scanners, and safety gear and equipment for healthcare workers. Faster data transfer and information sharing will demand employees to ensure that these data and information transfer pathways continue to develop and work appropriately. But photonics is also gaining traction among electrical engineers with applications including fiber networking, medical diagnostics, and military laser defense. Green solutions are applied in almost all engineering industries, and the merger of engineering and business engineering is gaining traction among corporate executives. Artificial intelligence, AI engineering, is a recently branched field of research and practice that combines the principles of systems engineering, software engineering, computer science, and human-centered design to create AI systems in accordance with human needs for mission outcomes. The rise in the availability of computing power and massive data sets has led to the creation of new AI models and algorithms encompassing thousands of variables capable of making rapid and impactful decisions. Hence, innovation is vital for future engineering. The future of the engineer's professional life will be marked by economic freedom, more consulting organizations, and more entrepreneurship. Minorities, particularly women, will become increasingly important in the industry, and working engineers will have a broad support network to increase their abilities and competence. Additionally, the number of notions included in the professional's thinking will grow, such as the idea of a non-engineering social answer for every technical solution. The future of engineering appears promising as more technical progress in this discipline may help all. This is the finest time in history to pursue a career in engineering. Farah Amnimna, Iowa State University, USA, Nimna, iastate.edu, Siram Ramakrishna, National University of Singapore, Singapore, Siram at nuis.edu.sg. References Wolf, W.A., Education for an Age of Technology, op-ed, National Academy of Engineering op-ed Service, National Academies, 1998. Open in a new window, Google Scholar, Gregerson, E. History of Technology Timeline, Encyclopedia Britannica, 2019, https www.britannica.com. Story history of technology timeline. Open in a new window. Access June 30, 2023. Open in a new window. Google Scholar. Augustine N.R. Toward an Engineering 3.0. National Academy of Engineering. National Academies 2020. Open in a new window. Google Scholar. Download PDF related research. People also read recommended articles cited by analysis of heat and moisture transfer in the microwave drying of potatoes. Listen by et al. Drying Technology, published online, 17 Dex 2022. Browse journals by subject. Back to top, area studies, arts, behavioral sciences, bioscience, built environment, communication studies, computer science, earth sciences, economics, finance, business and industry, education, engineering and technology, environment and agriculture, environment and sustainability, food science and technology, geography, global development, health and social care, humanities, information science, language and literature, law, mathematics, statistics and data science, medicine, dentistry, nursing, allied health, museum and heritage studies, physical sciences, politics and international relations, social sciences, sports and leisure, tourism, hospitality and events, urban studies information for authors, R&D professionals, editors, librarians, societies, open access, overview, open journals, open select, Dove Medical Press, 1000 research, opportunities, reprints and e-prints, advertising solutions, accelerated publication, corporate access solutions, help and information, help and contact, newsroom, all journals, books. Keep up to date. Register to receive personalized research and resources by email. Sign me up. Copyright Tate 2026 Informa UK. Limited privacy policy. Cookies, terms and conditions. Accessibility. Registered in England and Wales. Number 1072954, 5 Howick Place, London, SW1P1WG, Taylor and Francis Group, a hybrid image processing and clustering framework for unsupervised crack detection in resistant spot welds. Ananta Dutta, Arka Ghosh, Angshuman Roy, Pankaj Srivastava, Valafi Masomi, SSK, Deepak, Kalyani Tiwari, first published 15 June 2026, https://doi.org, 10.1155, AMPS A1491581, Digital Object Identifier, DOI, accessibility issue, request accessibility update, academic editor, Mohammed Rezwan Habib, Sections EPUB PDF, CITE tools, share, abstract resistance spot welding, RSW inspection, increasingly relies on supervised deep learning models. However, such approaches require large label data sets, extensive retraining under changing conditions, and often lack interpretability. Despite their high reported accuracy, there remains a clear need for robust, unsupervised, and training-free crack detection methods that can operate reliably under varying surface textures and illumination conditions. To address this gap, this study presents a fully unsupervised computer vision pipeline for the automated detection and delineation of cracks in resistant spot welds. The proposed framework integrates median absolute deviation, MAD-based adaptive thresholding for statistically robust crack candidate extraction, Laplacian filtering for edge enhancement, and density-based spatial clustering of applications with noise, dbScan, to isolate true crack regions from noise without prior training. A region growing strategy ensures crack continuity, followed by contour delineation for precise visualization. Experimental evaluation on representative weld images demonstrates that the pipeline effectively suppresses surface noise, isolates dominant crack structures, and produces continuous and accurately delineated crack boundaries without requiring labeled data by eliminating dataset dependency while maintaining reliable detection performance. The proposed approach provides an interpretable, scalable, and cost-effective alternative for automated, non-destructive weld inspection with strong potential for real-time industrial deployment. 1. Introduction. Resistance spot welding, RSW, is one of the most widely used joining processes in the fabrication of sheet metal assemblies, particularly in the automotive and aerospace sectors due to its high productivity, automation compatibility, and ability to join thin sheets of various metallic alloys. Despite these advantages, RSW is highly sensitive to variations in process parameters, electrode wear, and surface conditions, which often lead to inconsistent weld quality and defects such as cracks, expulsions, or insufficient nugget formation. Therefore, ensuring weld quality through reliable inspection and monitoring methods remains a major challenge for automated manufacturing lines. The earliest studies on weld quality assessment focused on signal-based and process monitoring approaches. Joe 1 demonstrated that measurable signals such as electrode displacement can effectively indicate nugget growth and weld strength. By correlating the electrode movement with percentage heat input, the study established a fundamental relationship between process input and weld quality, emphasizing the need for real-time feedback mechanisms. Similarly, Zhao et al. 2 employed a hybrid approach combining principal component analysis, PCA, and regression models to predict nugget diameter from dynamic resistance signals. The results showed that PCA-based regression and neural network models could reliably estimate weld quality without direct visual inspection, offering early insights into the potential of data-driven quality prediction. Parallel to signal-based approaches, researchers explored vision-based quality evaluation, aiming for non-contact and non-destructive assessment. Roos et al. 3 proposed one of the earliest computer vision methods for RSW inspection by analyzing weld imprints on electrode protection bands. Using geometric features extracted from the imprint, such as ellipse axis and nugget area, their method achieved real-time weld quality estimation without requiring training data, highlighting the feasibility of rule-based vision inspection. Later, Choi et al. 4 utilized surface appearance and heat trace images to predict weld quality characteristics such as tensile shear strength, nugget diameter, and fracture mode through a convolutional neural network CNN framework. This marked a transition from deterministic image analysis to machine learning-driven prediction. In recent years, deep learning architectures have revolutionized vision-based weld quality inspection. Dai et al. 5 developed an improved YOLOV 3-based network incorporating MobileNet v3 as a lightweight backbone and a feature pyramid network, FPN, with efficient cross-scale connections to enhance small object detection of weld spots. The model achieved robust real-time detection under varying lighting and texture conditions, outperforming traditional algorithms in accuracy and computational efficiency. Similarly, Liu et al. 6 proposed an enhanced, faster RCNN model for detecting surface defects in resistance welds by optimizing anchor box selection and pruning redundant network layers. Their approach achieved over 90% detection accuracy while processing each image within 15 millisecond, meeting the speed and precision requirements of automotive inspection lines. Other researchers combined CNNs with temporal and attention mechanisms to further improve feature extraction. Rajasekar and Gurusamy 7 introduced a hybrid CNN LSTM with attention network, HCN, to analyze heat trace images for predicting tensile shear strength, nugget diameter, and fracture mode. Their model achieved near perfect classification accuracy and very low prediction error rates, demonstrating the power of combining spatial and sequential information. Similarly, Guo et al. 8 trained CNNs using over 10,000 labeled images of welding spots and reported an impressive 99% accuracy, far surpassing manual inspection performance. A recent review by Zhang et al. 9 comprehensively discussed deep learning applications in welding defect detection, emphasizing the potential of CNNs, attention mechanisms, and hybrid models for intelligent inspection, while noting challenges such as dataset dependency, generalization limits, and lack of interpretability. Beyond vision-based and learning-based strategies, several non-destructive testing (NDT) methods have been explored for spot weld evaluation. Domine et al. Reviewed the detection and characterization of liquid metal embrittlement, LME, cracks, and advanced high-strength steels. Their work integrated acoustic emission testing with Shannon entropy-based criteria and advanced imaging modalities such as pulse thermography, eddy current array, and industrial tomography, RoboTom. The study underscored the potential of hybrid sensing techniques for crack depth estimation and real-time monitoring in production environments. Likewise, Tomio et al. 11 used ultrasonic acoustic imaging combined with adaptive mean thresholding and Sobel filtering to extract the outer edges of spot welds, estimating nugget diameters with good agreement to destructive measurements. These methods demonstrated high precision but required complex instrumentation and calibration, limiting their scalability in mass production. Although supervised deep learning methods achieve excellent performance, their success heavily depends on large, well-labeled data sets and specific training conditions. In industrial practice, obtaining such data sets is labor-intensive and often impractical, especially when defect occurrence is rare or varies in appearance. As a result, unsupervised or rule-based methods remain of great interest for scalable, interpretable, and cost-effective inspection. Early examples include Ruish et al. 4, who used shape analysis without labeled data. Recent studies have also explored the integration of machine learning and optimization techniques to improve welding processes and manufacturing performance. The effectiveness of hybrid optimization strategies was demonstrated by combining the Taguchi method and artificial neural networks for optimizing regulated metal deposition, welding parameters, achieving high predictive accuracy for weld characteristics such as heat affected zone, penetration depth, and bead width 12. Similarly, Fuse et al. Employed multiple machine learning classifiers to predict the tensile strength of friction, stir-welded aluminum alloys, showing that data-driven approaches can effectively model complex relationships between welding parameters and mechanical performance. 13. Another study investigated environmentally friendly welding processes using metal core filler wires and applied multi-objective optimization techniques to determine optimal welding parameters for improved weld integrity. 14. Furthermore, Fanday et al. Examined the influence of inner layers in dissimilar metal welding and highlighted how microstructural modifications significantly affect mechanical and corrosion properties of welded joints. 15. Beyond welding process optimization, the intelligent monitoring and inspection techniques were also implemented for ensuring structural reliability and integrity. The impact of particulate matter emissions on the structural health of buildings was investigated, and it was demonstrated how environmental factors can accelerate material degradation and structural deterioration. 16. These works highlight the importance of non-destructive monitoring and predictive modeling approaches for modern welding research and structural health monitoring. However, almost no studies have focused on unsupervised defect detection pipelines combining modern image analysis with clustering and statistical robustness, leaving a clear research gap. A comprehensive analysis of the existing literature reveals that most current approaches for spot weld inspection rely heavily on supervised learning frameworks, 4 to 8, which, despite their impressive accuracy, are fundamentally constrained by the need for annotated data sets and retraining when process conditions change. Moreover, the black box nature of deep neural networks limits their interpretability, making it difficult to trace specific causes of incorrect predictions or to adapt the system for new defect types. Meanwhile, traditional NDT and hybrid sensing approaches 910 provide high-fidelity results, but are hindered by their dependence on complex hardware and limited scalability. Furthermore, very few studies have explored unsupervised defect detection in RSW using image-based methods that combine classical computer vision with modern clustering and statistical analysis. This leaves a notable gap in the literature for interpretable, low-cost, and training-free inspection techniques suitable for industrial implementation. To address these limitations, the present study introduces a fully automated and unsupervised image analysis pipeline for crack detection in resistant spot welds. The proposed method integrates robust statistical thresholding, edge detection, and density-based clustering to identify and delineate cracks without the need for labeled training data. Specifically, adaptive thresholding based on the median absolute deviation, MAD, is employed to extract potential crack pixels in a statistically robust manner, minimizing the influence of illumination variability and surface noise. The application of Laplacian filtering enhances subtle crack edges, while density-based spatial clustering of applications with noise, dbScan clustering effectively separates true crack regions from random noise. A subsequent region growing process ensures continuous crack representation, and contour analysis provides precise delineation suitable for visualization and quantitative assessment. Unlike existing supervised deep learning approaches, the proposed method does not require labeled data sets, prior training, or parameter relearning under changing inspection conditions. The novelty lies in the systematic integration of MAD-based adaptive thresholding for statistically robust crack candidate extraction, dB scan clustering for noise-resilient defect segregation, and region growing with contour refinement for continuous and interpretable crack representation. This unified and training-free architecture provides an explainable alternative to black box models while maintaining robustness to illumination variations and surface texture irregularities. Consequently, the proposed framework represents a significant advancement toward real-time, training-free, and cost-effective weld quality assessment in industrial manufacturing environments. 2. Methodology. This section details the proposed methodology for the unsupervised detection of cracks in resistance spot welds. The pipeline is designed to be robust and autonomous, negating the need for labeled training data. The process is divided into 4 main stages. 1. Image preprocessing and spot weld area isolation. 2. Crack candidate identification. 3. Unsupervised crack clustering. And 4. Final crack delineation and visualization. Each stage is meticulously designed to process the input image progressively from initial feature extraction to the final well-defined crack mask. The subsequent subsections will elaborate on each step of this methodology. 2.1 Image preprocessing and spot weld area isolation. The initial phase of the methodology focuses on preparing the input image for analysis and isolating the specific area of interest, which is the spot weld itself. This step is crucial for minimizing the influence of irrelevant background noise and ensuring that all subsequent processing is concentrated on the most critical region. The process begins by loading the input image, Figure 1A, and converting it to grayscale, Figure 1B. This simplifies the analysis by reducing the image data from 3 color channels to a single intensity channel. To identify the circular spot weld area, a Huck circle transform is employed. This algorithm is highly effective at detecting circles in an image, even in the presence of noise, by voting in a parameter space for a set of candidate circles. A median filter is applied to the grayscale image prior to the Huff transform to further suppress noise and improve the accuracy of circle detection. Details are in the caption following the image. Figure 1, Open in Figure Viewer PowerPoint Image Preprocessing Pipeline for spot weld isolation. A. Original color image of the resistance spot weld with a visible crack. B. Image after conversion to grayscale. C. Binary circular mask generated using the Huff circle transform to define the region of interest. And D. Final isolated image of the spot weld with the background removed by applying the mask. The Huff circle transform is an advanced feature extraction technique that identifies circles in an image by mapping edge points from the Cartesian image space to a parameter space. A circle is uniquely defined by 3 parameters: its center coordinates, AB, and its radius, R. The equation for a circle is 1. For every edge point x, y in the image, the algorithm considers all possible circles that could pass through it. This is done by varying the parameters a, b, and r. Each point x, y votes for all possible circles it could belong to in a 3D accumulator array where the dimensions correspond to a, b, r. A cell in this array with a high vote count indicates a strong probability of a circle existing at that specific center and radius. To optimize this process and reduce computational complexity, a 2-stage approach is often used: gradient-based center detection. The first stage uses the image gradient information to find the potential centers of the circles. For each edge pixel, the algorithm assumes the center AB lies along the gradient direction. This simplifies the search from a 3D parameter space to a 2D space for the center coordinates AB, radius detection. Once potential centers are found, the second stage finds the most likely radius R for each center by analyzing the distance of all edge points from that center. Once the spot weld's center and radius are determined by the Hopf circle transform, a binary circular mask is created, figure 1c. This mask is a binary image where the pixels within the detected circle are white, value 255, and all other pixels are black, value 0. To prevent the crack detection from being prematurely cut off at the exact weld boundary, a small margin is subtracted from the detected radius. This mask is then used to isolate the region of interest from the original grayscale image, producing an image that contains only the spot weld and its immediate surroundings. Figure 1, D, put 2 crack candidate identification. This stage is dedicated to identifying potential crack-like features within the isolated spot weld image. A crack is typically characterized by a thin, dark line with sharp intensity transitions, which can be challenging to distinguish from surface textures and other noise. Our approach combines 2 robust filtering techniques to generate a highly refined set of crack candidate pixels. The first technique is an adaptive thresholding method based on the MAD to account for variations in illumination and surface texture. An adaptive thresholding scheme based on the MAD is applied to local image patches. For a given grayscale patch, the MAD is defined as follows: 2, where II represents the intensity value of each pixel in the patch. The adaptive threshold T is then calculated as follows: 3, where K is the sensitivity parameter controlling the threshold level. Pixels with intensity values lower than T are classified as potential crack candidates. Unlike standard deviation, which is sensitive to outliers and can be skewed by a few very dark pixels, MAD provides a more robust measure of statistical dispersion. This makes it ideal for segmenting cracks from the textured background of the weld. The image is divided into small local windows, and within each window a threshold is calculated as the median intensity minus a constant K times the MAD. Pixels with intensities below this threshold are marked as crack candidates, producing an initial binary mask. Preliminary experiments indicated that lower threshold values resulted in excessive noise detection, whereas higher values suppressed fine crack structures. Therefore, the selected MAD scaling factor provides an optimal compromise that reliably extracts crack candidates while minimizing false positives caused by surface texture irregularities. This adaptive local approach ensures that the threshold adjusts to varying illumination and texture across the spot weld. The second technique is Laplacian filtering, a second-order derivative operator that is highly sensitive to rapid changes in pixel intensity, such as sharp edges. When applied to the grayscale image, the Laplacian filter produces a high response value at the edges of features. By taking the absolute value of the filter's output, both light to dark and dark to light transitions are highlighted, effectively enhancing the faint edges of the crack. The Laplacian of the image IXY is given by 4. This process generates a map of all sharp edges within the spot weld, including those from surface texture, as shown in Figure 2b of the provided images. In this stage, a standard 3x3 Laplacian kernel was employed for edge enhancement. This kernel size was selected because it effectively highlights high-frequency intensity transitions associated with crack boundaries while maintaining computational efficiency. Larger kernels were observed to introduce excessive smoothing, whereas smaller kernels did not sufficiently enhance crack edges. Details are in the caption following the image Figure 2. Open in Figure Viewer, PowerPoint Crack Candidate Identification. A. Initial MAD-based thresholding. B. Laplacian filtering for edge enhancement. And C. The final refined mask from a bitwise AND operation. The final set of crack candidates is generated by performing a bitwise AND operation on the binary masks from both the MAD-based adaptive thresholding Figure 2a and the Laplacian filtering Figure 2b. This intersection ensures that only pixels that are both statistically dark and part of a sharp intensity transition are considered significantly reducing false positives from unrelated surface features and yielding the final crack candidate mask shown in Figure 2 per C. 2. For 3. Unsupervised crack clustering, the mask of crack candidate pixels generated in the previous step often contains fragmented segments and isolated noise. The goal of this stage is to intelligently group these pixels into coherent clusters, identifying which clusters represent the actual crack and which are just random noises. For this purpose, the dbScan algorithm is employed. dbScan is a powerful clustering algorithm that is particularly well suited for this task because it can find arbitrarily shaped clusters and is robust to noise. Unlike other algorithms like k-means, dbScan does not require a predefined number of clusters. Instead, it groups together points that are closely packed together, marking as outliers those points that lie alone in low-density regions. The algorithm operates on two key parameters, as shown in Figure 3, epsilon, which defines the maximum distance for a point to be considered a neighbor of another, and minpete, min samples, which defines the minimum number of points required to form a dense region, a cluster. The core concepts of dbScan are defined as follows. Epsilon neighborhood, the set of all points within a distance epsilon of a given point P. This can be expressed as follows. 5, where D is the data set and dist is a distance function. Core point, a point P is a core point if its epsilon neighborhood contains at least min PTS points. This is formally stated as follows. 6, directly density reachable. A point Q is directly density reachable from a core point P if Q is in the epsilon neighborhood of P. Density reachable. A point Q is density reachable from a core point P if there is a chain of directly density reachable points connecting them. Noise point, a point that is not density reachable from any core point, is considered. Noise details are in the caption following the image. Figure 3. Open in Figure Viewer, PowerPoint, a schematic illustration of the dbScan clustering algorithm showing core points, border points, and noise points with label clusters and example distance radius AP circles around core points. By tuning these parameters, we can control the sensitivity of the clustering process. In this study, the epsilon value of 3 and minpit's value of 10 were chosen. The epsilon parameter was selected based on the typical spatial proximity between neighboring crack pixels observed in the weld images. This ensures that spatially continuous crack pixels are grouped into a single cluster while isolated noise pixels are excluded. The min-PTS parameter was selected to represent the minimum density required for a valid crack segment. Setting this parameter too low resulted in noise clusters, whereas excessively large values caused fragmentation of thin crack structures. The chosen parameter combination therefore ensures robust separation of true crack regions from background artifacts. However, these parameters can also be determined from the k-nearest neighbor distance distribution of candidate crack pixels. After the dbScan algorithm has run, it assigns a cluster label to each point with a special label of -1 for points identified as noise. We assume that the largest non-noise cluster corresponds to the main crack, as shown in Figure 4a, by identifying and isolating the points belonging to this largest cluster. We obtain a much cleaner representation of the crack, free from the random noise that the initial candidate identification stage may have included. The dbScan output is then further processed to delineate the crack, as shown in Figures 4b and 4c. Details are in the caption following the image Figure 4. Open in Figure Viewer, PowerPoint, A. Largest cluster identified by dbScan, B. Delineated contour of the largest cluster, C. Delineated crack overlaid in red on the original spot weld image, and D. Measurement of the crack dimensions. 2.4 Final crack delineation and visualization. The final stage of the pipeline takes the complete crack mask from the clustering algorithm and produces a clean, visually clear representation of the crack. The goal is to delineate the crack's boundary as a continuous line, which is often more useful for inspection and measurement than a filled-in mask. The process begins by using the OpenCV function CV to find contours on the cluster's binary mask. This function identifies all continuous curves, contours in the image. We assume that the largest contour in terms of area or length corresponds to the main crack. By selecting this largest contour, we can ignore any minor artifacts that may have been introduced by the previous steps. Once the largest contour is identified, a new empty binary mask is created. The contour is then drawn onto this mask with a specified line thickness, e.g. 2 pixels. This results in a delineated mask that follows the periphery of the crack, providing a clear visual representation of its path and extent, Figure 4b. Finally, for presentation and analysis, this delineated mask is overlaid on a colored version of the original image. This is achieved by creating a color version of the original grayscale image and then applying the delineated crack mask to it, coloring the crack pixels, e.g. in red. The two images are then blended together using a weighted addition, creating a semi-transparent overlay that clearly highlights the detected crack against the backdrop of the original weld image, as shown in Figure 4's C2.5 quantitative crack measurement and physical scaling. To transition from pixel-based detection to physical measurement, a calibration factor, pixels per mm, was established based on the reference scale present in one of the weld images, as the camera position will be fixed on the electrode gun of the RSW machine. This calibration factor will not change for measurement of other spot welds. For quantitative assessment, the final crack mask was analyzed using the minimum area enclosing rectangle rotated bounding box method. Unlike standard axis-aligned bounding boxes, this approach identifies the smallest rectangle of any orientation that fully encloses the crack contour. The crack height length was defined as the maximum dimension of this rotated rectangle, representing the true extent of the crack regardless of its orientation. The crack width was defined as the dimension perpendicular to the height. The physical area was calculated by dividing the total pixel count within the final mask by the square of the scaling factor. This methodology ensures that measurements remain robust even for cracks that are diagonally oriented or curved within the spot weld. 3. Results in discussion 3.1. Quantitative performance and accuracy analysis. The proposed unsupervised pipeline for crack detection in resistant spot welds was evaluated based on its ability to accurately identify and delineate cracks in images with varying surface textures and noise. The methodology's performance is analyzed through a detailed qualitative assessment of the output at each processing stage, followed by a discussion of its key strengths, limitations, and potential for future work. The pipeline's core strength lies in its ability to operate effectively without requiring a labeled data set for training, offering a scalable solution for automated NDT. The image pre-processing stages, utilizing median filtering and the Huff circle transform, effectively isolated the spot weld area, confining the analysis to the region of interest and eliminating background false positives. Crack candidate identification was achieved through a robust combination of MAD-based adaptive thresholding and Laplacian edge enhancement. The bitwise AND operation between these masks filtered out surface texture noise to create a precise map of potential crack pixels. Unsupervised clustering via dbScan then successfully coalesced these fragmented candidates into a single cohesive cluster while classifying spurious outliers as noise. Finally, region growing connected any remaining gaps by following local intensity gradients, and contour delineation provided a precise, continuous redline overlay that clearly visualizes the crack's path for both automated measurement and human inspection. The reliability of the proposed unsupervised pipeline was evaluated by comparing the estimated crack dimensions against actual manual measurements. Table 1 summarizes the comparative results for crack length, width, and area. Table 1. Comparative analysis of estimated and actual crack dimensions. Metric estimated value, actual value, apparent error, accuracy percentage, crack length, Mimid 6.928, 7.172, 0.242, 96.63, crack width, Mimid 1313, 128, 0.033, 97.43, crack area, Mimid 2, 2201, 2541, 0229, 91.33. The quantitative evaluation demonstrates a high degree of correlation between the automated pipeline and physical measurements, with accuracy exceeding 90% across all metrics. The crack length was estimated with 96.63% accuracy, with a slight deviation 0.242 millimeters, likely stemming from the extreme ends of the crack, where the intensity transitions become more subtle for the Laplacian filter to detect. The area calculation achieved an accuracy of 91.33%, further confirming that the dbScan clustering and region growing stages effectively delineate the core defect while excluding background surface artifacts. These results indicate that the training-free pipeline provides a highly reliable and objective alternative to manual inspection, maintaining consistent performance without the need for large annotated data sets. The results on more complex weld samples demonstrate the framework's inherent adaptability to diverse defect types, as shown in Figure 5. For weld samples with no visible defects, Figure 5a, the pipeline successfully suppresses surface scratches and metallic texture noise, yielding no false positive detections. This confirms the effectiveness of the MAD-based thresholding and dbScan clustering in maintaining high specificity. The algorithm effectively identifies continuous circumferential cracks following the weld nugget boundary, Figure 5b. The region growing and contour delineation stages ensure that the detected boundary accurately reflects the circular path of the defect, which is critical for assessing structural integrity in cases involving multiple radial cracks of varying sizes, Figure 5c. The pipeline successfully isolates and delineates the entire branching network. Although the dbScan logic was initially parameterized to prioritize the largest cluster, the dense spatial proximity of secondary cracks often allows them to be coalesced into a unified defect representation. This allows the system to capture complex multi-scale crack structures without requiring modifications to the underlying unsupervised architecture. Details are in the caption following the image Figure 5. Open in Figure Viewer, PowerPoint performance of the model on diverse defect morphologies, weld sample with A no defects, B exhibiting a dominant circumferential crack along the nugget edge, and C featuring multiple radial cracks of different sizes. 3.2 comparative analysis with baseline unsupervised method to further evaluate the effectiveness of the proposed crack detection pipeline. Its performance was compared with representative unsupervised crack detection approaches reported in the literature. Zhang et al. 17 proposed a robust unsupervised learning framework based on VQVA2 and Pixel SNIL for crack detection in stamped metal products, achieving 93.33% classification accuracy, 91.67% recall, and 94.82% precision at the image level. Their method relies on deep generative modeling and requires training using normal surface images to learn latent feature distributions for anomaly detection. In contrast, the proposed approach operates as a training-free unsupervised pipeline combining adaptive MAD thresholding, Laplacian edge enhancement, and dbScan clustering to identify crack candidates directly from image intensity discontinuities. The quantitative results, as summarized in Table 1, reveals that the proposed model estimated the crack geometry with high accuracy, achieving 96.63% accuracy for crack length, 97.43% for crack width, and 91.33% for crack area when compared with physical measurements obtained from the reference scale. These results indicate that the proposed method achieves measurement accuracy comparable to or exceeding the detection performance reported for existing unsupervised learning approaches. Moreover, the proposed methodology offers several significant advantages, particularly in the context of industrial inspection. Unsupervised learning. The most significant strength is the pipeline's completely unsupervised nature. It does not require any labeled training data, which eliminates the time and resource costs associated with manual annotation. This makes the system highly adaptable and scalable, allowing it to be deployed in new inspection environments without the need for extensive retraining. Robustness to noise and texture, the combination of MAD-based adaptive thresholding and dbSCAN clustering provides a high degree of robustness against surface irregularities, minor scratches, and uneven lighting. The use of a statistical measure like MAD, which is insensitive to outliers, ensures that the initial thresholding is not skewed by noise, while dbSCAN's density-based approach naturally filters out isolated noise pixels. Effective crack delineation. The final output is not just a binary mask, but a well-defined, delineated contour. This provides a clean, professional-grade result that is easy for human operators to interpret and can serve as a basis for further quantitative analysis, such as measuring crack length, width, or area, modular and interpretable. The pipeline is composed of distinct logical stages. This modular design makes the system highly interpretable, as the contribution of each step can be individually analyzed. It also simplifies troubleshooting and allows for easy substitution of individual components if more advanced algorithms become available. 4. Conclusions. This study presented an automated, training-free pipeline for crack detection in resistance spot weld images using a combination of adaptive statistical thresholding and clustering-based segmentation. The proposed framework integrates adaptive MAD thresholding, Laplacian edge enhancement, and dbSCAN clustering to identify crack candidates and delineate defect regions within the weld nugget area. By combining these complementary techniques, the method effectively highlights crack discontinuities while suppressing background surface artifacts. The quantitative evaluation demonstrates a strong agreement between the automated measurements and the physical crack dimensions obtained from the calibrated scale. The proposed approach estimated the crack dimensions with more than 90% accuracy. These results indicate that the proposed pipeline can reliably capture the geometric characteristics of weld cracks with a high degree of precision. Importantly, the method operates without requiring labeled training data, making it suitable for industrial environments where large annotated data sets are often unavailable. Future work will focus on further validating the robustness and generalizability of the proposed method on large industrial data sets to assess its performance under diverse materials, surface conditions, and imaging environments. Additionally, future research will investigate the integration of the proposed crack detection algorithm with robotic welding systems, enabling automated inline inspection during welding operations. Such integration would allow real-time monitoring of weld quality and facilitate adaptive process control in robotic welding facilities, contributing toward the development of intelligent and autonomous manufacturing systems. No funding was received for this manuscript. Conflicts of interest. The authors declare no conflicts of interest. Data availability statement. The data that support the findings of this study are available from the first and corresponding author upon reasonable request. References, all articles. All articles, figures, references, related information, recommended efficient clustering approach for adaptive unsupervised color image segmentation, Zubair Khan, Qi Yang, Yuanji Zheng, IET image processing, image clustering algorithm using superpixel segmentation and non-symmetric Gaussian Cauchy mixture model, Sifan Ji, Hongqing Zhu, Pingyu Wang, Xiaofeng Ling, IET image processing, recent review on image clustering, Nasser Ahmed IET image processing scheme for unsupervised color texture image segmentation using Nutrosophic set and non-subsample controller transform, Abd Heshmati, Mariam Golami, Abdul Reza Rashno, IET image processing, an improved algorithm for image crack detection based on percolation model, the importance of quality control in manufacturing, July 23, 2024, Jeff Zemsky image, the importance of quality control in manufacturing. What is quality control in manufacturing? What is quality control in manufacturing? Quality control versus quality assurance. Why is quality control in manufacturing important? What are the benefits of quality control in manufacturing? How to implement quality control in manufacturing? How can quality control be improved in manufacturing? Achieve manufacturing excellence through quality, share in the fiercely competitive landscape of manufacturing. The quality of products is a cornerstone for success. Quality control. QC in manufacturing is not just about adhering to compliance standards or minimizing errors. It's a comprehensive approach that affects every aspect of production and ultimately shapes customer satisfaction and brand reputation. To master quality control in manufacturing, it is essential to understand its significance and the best practices for implementing it to enhance manufacturing processes and outcomes. Quality control and manufacturing quality outcomes go hand in hand. What is quality control in manufacturing? Quality control in manufacturing refers to the processes and systems used to ensure that products meet specified requirements and are consistent and reliable. This involves planning, designing, implementing, and maintaining a system that provides confidence in a product's design and production. Quality control versus quality assurance. Although often used interchangeably, quality control and quality assurance, QA, are distinct concepts within the broader scope of quality management. Quality assurance ensures that quality requirements are defined and met, focusing on the process and its improvement. In contrast, quality control is about compliance with these requirements during the operational phase, focusing on identifying defects in the finished products. In other words, quality assurance creates a goal and the strategies to achieve it. It answers a question: what steps are we going to take in an organization to make sure we meet our quality targets? Quality control reviews and adjusts the execution of those strategies. It answers the question: did we take the right steps to meet quality targets effectively? And if not, what should we change? Why is quality control in manufacturing important? Quality control in manufacturing directly impacts the product and the business in several ways. Identifying defects and errors before products reach the market helps reduce waste and increase efficiency. The efficacy of QC processes can be a boon or a burden to your brand, reputation, and customer experience. Best-in-class QC processes can ensure that the products manufactured meet customer expectations, which is essential for maintaining competitiveness and compliance with industry standards and regulations. Conversely, poorly constructed or implemented QC processes add all the work to quality efforts, but don't actually close the loop by ensuring those efforts pay off, creating a quality worst-case scenario of maximum spending with anemic returns. That's why quality control in manufacturing is so important. What are the benefits of quality control in manufacturing? Quality is a standard goal for most businesses in the market, but it is only sometimes a top priority. Depending on their output or brand, different companies have different expectations about their acceptable cost of quality. Regardless of those differences, all organizations can reap significant benefits by implementing strong quality control practices. That's because better quality control doesn't just improve outcomes, it can do so more cost effectively. It allows you to invest smarter, not more, in quality efforts while reaping all the benefits of solid quality processes. That's why many organizations invest in systems like product lifecycle management, PLM, to make quality assurance, quality processes, and quality management more seamless and effective, improve safety, ensuring products are made to specification leads to safer end products. This is crucial in the automotive, aerospace, and pharmaceutical industries where safety is paramount. Effective quality control helps minimize the risk of malfunctions and accidents associated with faulty products, contributes to overall positive branding. High quality products enhance a company's reputation. Consistent delivery of reliable and effective products ensures positive customer perceptions, a powerful marketing tool. Increased customer loyalty. Customers are more likely to return to a brand that they trust by ensuring product quality. Companies can build a devout customer base. Loyal customers are also likely to recommend your products to others, further extending your market reach. Decreased liability risk. Effective quality control reduces the risks of product failures that can lead to recalls and legal issues. This saves the company from potential financial liabilities and protects its image from the negative publicity associated with recalls. Quality control methods and techniques. There are several ways to implement good quality control. Each approach has its own set of tools and skills, and they are often used in combination to ensure the highest quality of products in manufacturing. Total Quality Management, TQM, is a comprehensive and structured approach to organizational management that seeks to improve the quality of products and services through ongoing refinements in response to continuous feedback. Customer demands define TQM requirements, and the organization strives to achieve those with zero defects. Statistical quality control, SQC involves using statistical methods to monitor and control a process. This helps identify and address variations in the manufacturing process that might lead to defects, thus ensuring product quality. 100% inspection method. This method involves inspecting every single product part or assembly for defects. While resource intensive, it can be vital in environments where defects can lead to significant safety or functionality issues, e.g., automotive, medical device, heavy equipment manufacturers. Six Sigma. Six Sigma is a set of techniques and tools for process improvement. It aims to improve the output quality of a process by identifying and removing the causes of defects and minimizing variability in manufacturing and business processes. How to implement quality control in manufacturing. Implementing quality control in manufacturing involves a series of steps to ensure that products meet defined quality standards and metrics. Define quality standards and metrics. Define quality standards and metrics. Define quality standards and metrics. Establish clear and measurable criteria for product quality to guide the manufacturing process and QC efforts. Select appropriate QC methods choose methods that align with the company's quality goals, train employees in quality control procedures, ensure that all relevant personnel are trained in the chosen QC methods and understand the quality standards they are expected to meet, implement an ongoing monitoring system, set up systems to continuously monitor product quality during manufacturing, allowing for real-time adjustments and early detection of issues, continuously analyze and refine QC processes, review quality data regularly to identify trends, predict potential issues, and refine QC processes for ongoing improvement. By following these guidelines, manufacturers can create a robust quality control system that minimizes defects, ensures safety and functionality, and maintains high product quality standards. How can quality control be improved in manufacturing? Implementing quality control techniques is only half the battle. It is equally important to improve your quality control measures to keep pace with new technologies and stay competitive in the market audit processes. Regular audits help ensure that the quality control processes adhere to the highest standards and identify areas for improvement. By conducting systematic reviews, manufacturers can catch and rectify issues before they escalate, leading to a more consistent and reliable production line. Collect data. Data collection is paramount for good quality control. Detailed records of the manufacturing process from raw materials to finished products help identify trends, predict potential issues, and provide a basis for process improvements. It also aids in making informed decisions and implementing evidence-based improvements. Achieve manufacturing excellence through quality. Quality control is an indispensable part of manufacturing operations that affects nearly every aspect of the business. By ensuring that products are produced to the highest quality standards, manufacturers can maintain compliance and competitiveness while fostering customer trust and loyalty. Investing in effective quality control systems is a regulatory necessity and a strategic asset. Without using quality control or the right technology to embed it into your processes, how confident can you be that you're meeting your quality targets or doing so cost effectively? The Earth Science approach to lawn care is designed for simplicity and efficiency in creating attractive, vigorous, and healthy lawns. Our methods of smart lawn care allow people to spend less time maintaining a lawn and more time enjoying it. It also reduces the potential negative environmental impact of a lawn. Proper lawn culture is an effective preventative for the most common lawn problems. A healthy, vigorously growing lawn is naturally resistant to pest, disease, and weed problems. Proper management of mowing, watering, and fertilizing are the keys to good lawn culture. The keys to proper mowing. Mowing properly is critical to having a healthy, vigorous lawn. Improper mowing stresses grass and makes a lawn more prone to weed problems, disease, and bare spots. Properly mowed lawns produce deep, vigorous root systems that are better able to absorb water and nutrients and more resistant to environmental stresses, pests, and weed problems. There are two keys to proper mowing. They are the height of the grass after mowing and the length of the leaf blades removed when mowing. All types of lawns should be mowed so that no more than 1/3 of the total leaf blade length is removed in a single mowing. Height after mowing varies with the type of grass grown. Lawns with cool season grasses are best mowed to a height of 2.5 to 3 inches minimum. Warm season grass heights after mowing should generally be 2 to 2.5 inches tall. In shaded areas, the tallest recommended mowing height should be used. Grass growth tends to be more upright in nature in shaded sites, so using the higher mow height helps promote good light accumulation in shaded sites. Lawns may need mowing every 5 to 7 days during active growth periods. During periods of slower growth or dormant periods, mowing may only be needed every 1 to 2 weeks. Lawnmower maintenance is also an important part of proper mowing. Sharp mower blades cut grass blades cleanly, and clean cuts are less stressful to lawns. Utilize lawn clippings. Clippings break down rapidly when lawns are mowed properly. Allowing clippings to remain on lawns to decompose provides nutrients and organic matter to the soil as the clippings break down. This can be very beneficial to lawn and soil health and reduce the amount of fertilizer lawns require. Clippings have a high water content, generally 70 to 85% moisture, so they dehydrate rapidly and do not leave a large amount of residue on the surface of the lawn as they break down, as long as mowing is done properly. Clippings will not contribute to a buildup of lawn thatch. Grass clippings typically contain about 4% nitrogen, 1% phosphorus, and 2% potassium, plus small amounts of other plant nutrients. Leaving clippings on the lawn reduces the need for fertilizer inputs and makes fertilizer applications more efficient. Up to half of the nitrogen applied as fertilizer may be lost when grass clippings are removed, and research at the University of Missouri shows that not removing grass clippings can reduce a lawn's overall fertilizer needs by about 25%. Watering proper irrigation is a key to optimal lawn care. Both the timing of irrigation and the amount of water applied are the key factors in proper lawn watering. Water during morning hours before 10 a.m. to reduce water loss through evaporation. Avoid watering in the evenings, as wet grass during nighttime hours can promote disease infection. In general, lawns require 1 inch of water per week during the growing season. In weeks where rainfall provides an inch of water, additional irrigation is not needed. Water enough to wet the soil deeply and avoid more frequent light waterings. Regular light watering can reduce root growth and make grass less drought tolerant when irrigation is needed. Water lawns 1 to 2 times in a week. Note that lawn browning during periods of severe heat and drought is normal. This is a lawn's response to heat and moisture stress, naturally ceasing growth and entering a period of dormancy. Lawns can typically tolerate up to a month of dormancy, returning to active growth when drought. Fertilization, proper lawn fertilizing, involves choosing the right product and applying it at the right time and right rate. When to fertilize depends in part on the type of grass used in a lawn. Fall is generally the most important time to fertilize cool season grasses. Fertilizing in spring, once growth resumes, is also acceptable. If just one fertilizer application is to be made in a year, use a fall application. Warm season grasses are best fertilized in late spring to early summer when temperatures warm up enough for them to resume growing. Typically, 1 or 2 fertilizer applications are made in each fertilizer window. Fertilizing when grass is not growing actively leads to less efficient nutrient uptake and increases the potential for nutrient loss and runoff. We recommend applying no more than 0.8 pounds of nitrogen per 1,000 feet of lawn with any single fertilizer application. Applying too much fertilizer over fertilization is wasteful and can lead to loss of nutrients and runoff. Lawn fertilization is influenced by whether clippings are removed or left on the lawn. Lawns that do not have clippings removed can generally skip 1 yearly fertilization without reducing performance. Lawns growing in shaded locations need less fertilizer than those in full sun, and one fertilization can be skipped or fertilizer rate reduced by 25%. For optimal fertilizer use efficiency, slow-release nitrogen sources are best. These include organic nitrogen sources and coated urea products. Slow-release nitrogen is more likely to be taken up by plants and used to fuel vigorous growth instead of being wasted in runoff. Finally, avoid fertilizing in times of heat or drought stress when lawn growth slows or grass goes dormant. Weed control. Healthy lawns have fewer problems with weeds, as vigorously growing lawns can outcompete weeds. This makes these lawns less likely to need active weed control. We do not recommend the routine use of herbicides over entire lawns, particularly pre-emergent herbicides. If weeds are a problem in certain areas, consider spot treatment on the weed infestation. Timing is key when using selective herbicides on lawns. Fall applications are generally the most effective. Make applications warm, sunny days when no rain is expected for at least 24 hours. Overseeding and patch repair. Proper timing is key to success with lawn overseeding, repairing bare patches, and establishing new lawns. Cool season grasses are best sown during periods of cool, moist weather. Early fall is the best time to sow cool season grass varieties. Early spring is the second best time for sowing cool season grass seeds. During the heat of summer months, successful establishment of cool season grasses is difficult. For warm season grasses, sowing is best done in late spring or early summer when the soil is warm, but before extreme summer temperatures begin. Soil amendments and soil health, ensuring that soil pH is in the proper range, allows plants to take up nutrients efficiently. The proper pH range varies by the type of grass being grown. Cool season grasses generally grow best at a soil pH of 6.5 to 7.2. For warm season grasses, the best pH range depends on the type of warm season grass. Bermuda grass and St. Augustine grass grow best with a soil pH of 5.5 to 6.5. Zoysia grass is best at a soil pH of 6.0. Centipede grass prefers more acidic conditions than other warm season grasses and grows best at a soil pH of 5.0 to 6.0. Soil tests can be used to determine the pH of a soil. Many regional cooperative extension services offer soil testing. In addition to pH determination, soil testing can be used to determine a soil's nutrient levels and organic matter content. A list of land-grant universities and extension offices by state is available at the USDA website. Improving mowing efficiency. Most lawns include areas where mowing is difficult or slow due to sloped soil, irregular shapes, nearby obstructions, or other factors that make access with a mower difficult. Transforming these areas into beds planted with ornamental plants, especially flowering plants and shrubs, can be an excellent way to make these sites more manageable in the landscape and improve mowing efficiency. In addition, with proper plant choice, such sites can provide habitat for beneficial insects and pollinators. This is also a good strategy for areas that have poor grass growth due to heavy shade or areas that are low and tend to remain wet after rains. Choose shade-tolerant perennial ground covers and species that can tolerate wet soil for such areas. Fall leaf management. As with grass clippings, fallen leaves can be mowed and used as a lawn mulch. To utilize leaves as a mulch, set the mower to its highest setting to chop leaves. Allow the chopped leaves to remain in place after mowing. Don't allow leaves to accumulate to over about 6 inches thick before mowing. As with grass clippings, using leaves as lawn mulch adds nutrients and organic matter to soil. It also serves as mulch for bare spots to reduce weed seed germination. Research at Michigan State University has shown that the practice of leaf mulching on lawns can nearly eliminate crabgrass and dandelions in lawns after just 3 seasons of mulching leaves. Natural thatch prevention. Thatch is a layer of organic matter between the soil and the actively growing part of a lawn. Thatch is a normal part of a lawn and helps lawns to resist damage from traffic. Excessively thick thatch, generally more than and half to the quarters of an inch thick, can be detrimental to lawn growth. Lawns with proper culture and management will generally not have problems with excessive thatch. Good cultural practices that promote soil health reduce the potential for excessive thatch buildup. Thatch is promoted by over-fertilization with nitrogen fertilizers, especially in spring, and by compacted soils with low oxygen levels, overly high alkaline or low acidic soil pH, and regular use of pesticides that harm soil microbes or earthworms also contribute to thatch buildup. Leaving grass clippings on a lawn does not contribute to thatch buildup. In fact, this practice actually helps to boost beneficial soil microbe activity and reduces thatch buildup.